Welcome to All My Friends Are Cooler Than Me. I'm Wes,
And I'm Dr. Laura. Enjoy today's episode.
and learn how to be just a little bit cooler.
On today's episode, we have a guest who has been called the songbird of our generation and all generations. Uh, a musical mastermind, a goodness virtuoso, a ray of sunshine in corporeal form. Danlie, how are you? Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey guys, I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. How are you?
Oh, I'm alive. I'm alive, scatterbrained but alive.
All right, all right.
We're really excited to have you here today. So Wes thinks that you are a ray of sunshine. Can you share a little bit about yourself and maybe a story that highlights that quality?
A ray of sunshine. Well, I'm actually very, very, very. When I'm around people, I'm around a lot. When I'm around people, I get just really excited. Especially people that I care about because I feel like there's immediately a connection there. Like, oh, like it just brings me back automatically to like a memory with them. And I don't know, like it's kind of I think the lower your lows, the higher the highs, I think. And so like when I'm like in a really good mood when the sun is out, I'm affected by the weather like really badly. When the sun is out, I'm just like grateful for everything. I'm like, oh man, clear skies, like what could go wrong today? And if something does go wrong, I don't care because I have good people that I know I'm going to be with today. And so I try to keep that in mind and not necessarily like too into the positivity of the thing, but it's just the reality that like, hey, like you could reframe your situation, and I choose to reframe it in those moments in time. So I feel like that's where that comes from.
So we jumped off the diving board right into the deep end. So just for like frame of reference here, can you can you tell those of us who are listening who are not me, who adores you and knows you and calls you friend, luckily, a little bit about who you are, what you do? What's the
Um,
vibe?
what's the vibe? It's just like
Like if you were a
it's a
fruit
lot of
cocktail, what
vibes.
would you be comprised of?
You know, well, I automatically go to like an old fashioned, um, because like it's like I feel like there's a lot of complexity there, but if you really enjoy diving into the deep end like that, you'll enjoy the drink, and then there's like maybe like a shave of orange for citrusy lightness flavor.
I went with a fruit
Yeah.
cocktail and she immediately jumped
Just pure
alcohol,
whiskey.
yeah.
The fruit is like in the bitters and in the orange shaving.
Fair. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
But
For those who don't know me, I am a singer. Um, I'm in the military, but that's all I'm gonna say about that. I sing for weddings. I sing for a lot of events. I have an album out just called "Somebody You Can Lean On." Go check it out. But anyway, yeah, I'm a singer. I'm a lover of people as much as I can, with whatever capacity I have that day. Um, but yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm a lot of things, man. It's like simple questions, but not really simple because I think a lot. So
yeah.
Laura's gonna like dig
Well,
into
yeah,
that.
not it's hard to get reduced down to just one or two things. So you contain
Yeah.
multitudes.
Oh, thank you.
Um, I'm really curious about learning more about your music. Are you a solo artist? Are you in a band?
Yeah, I'm in a band. But I front the band, so I'm a singer in a band, and a lot of people usually when they hear, "Oh, you're a soloist," like if you're a singer, you're a soloist automatically, or you're in a choir or whatever. But I think because I'm in a band, I'm more I try to like tune more into what everybody else is doing so that we can do this thing together. I'm not really like I don't like being singled out, which is like so weird because I'm in front of the band. Um, but usually, yeah, like in a performance, if I'm singing out front, I'm like dancing or whatever. Yeah, I'm singled out physically, but in my brain, I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm doing this so that this moment has some kind of contrast with whatever the band's doing behind me or something like that. Um, yeah, I'm in a band. That's the line. I'm in a band. I'm a singer in a band. I'm in a singer of many bands. As wedding band singers, you either are in one specific group or you're in a band for that specific wedding for with a rotation of a bajillion other people, and you just show up and play.
So yeah, I've seen you live. Um, you craft these moments like you were just talking about, where you are kind of leading the charge in the war on sadness with your army of joy and music. And it's incredible to see it happen. You
Oh,
engage with
thanks, man.
these huge crowds. People, they get brought in and like sucked into your world, into your atmosphere, and into that sunshine. And it's truly magical to like watch happen. Did you have to like develop that skill? Is that just something like natively born?
Definitely a development for sure because when I first started performing, I just wanted to sing the songs. I did not want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to like shake anybody's hand in the crowd or anything. I just wanted to be like, it's me singing this song, and you're here, and this is what we're doing today. I wasn't very people centric at the time, um, because I don't think, yeah, I didn't think about it at that time that like, hey, like this experience, this concert or whatever is for all of us. This ain't just about me showing off my skills or whatever. Everybody has skills. But I think it definitely just took having some life experience to realize that, like, hey, like, you're never doing anything alone. And so these days, I very much feed off of the fact that, like, well, yeah, it's kind of it's a relationship between me and the audience. It's very apparent when they're digging something, and when they're not, I try to just suck it up sometimes too because I'm very much like, oh, you gotta give me something all the time now, which is so funny because before I was just like, leave me alone, you're over there. But now it's just like, I love the relationship that we're having in those moments. So yeah, definitely learned, but just naturally, like through life experiences, and not being afraid to just do the thing because I don't want to be complacent, so I gotta fail every now and then.
I feel all the time. Also, I have no musical
Yeah.
talent. Laura says I'm not legally allowed to sing in the house.
Yeah, I've heard him. Tone deaf.
Oh, you know, good for you.
So I'm curious. We've all been to weddings where people are like just sitting there and they seem sort of miserable. How do you get
Yeah.
people up and dancing? What are your techniques?
Ooh, the
Well,
tips
like
and
on
tricks.
Yeah.
weddings, it's like really, I would say it's almost easy because usually, if they drink alcohol, they're like, oh, yeah. Like it's kind of like a given. But like, I do acknowledge that there are people that like, that's just not their jam. You know what I mean? And so I just kind of leave them be, I give them like a point or whatever throughout a time. And if they still don't want to be acknowledged, I get it. Because there's other people who are already like on the dance floor. So I'll just, feed the rest of them. But yeah, I kind of like leave them alone, respect their boundaries and everything. Um, Not everybody has to be so happy about it. There are chill, happier people. So yeah, yeah. I don't try too hard with those people, honestly.
I think my biggest follow-up question to that is like, so you learned and taught yourself the skill to engage the crowd, but did you have, what do they call, like a people person? Were you a social butterfly growing up? Keep in mind, if you take more than
Um,
3 seconds to think about this, I have to insert a sponsor. So,
sponsored by.
friendship.
Insert here. Um, I. Well, the thing is, like, I don't know if I was. No, actually, in high school, I wasn't. Like, I I tended to blend into the background. So, not necessarily putting myself out there, but also um, not putting too much attention to me that anybody would notice. You know, like I did join a lot of things. Like I was in all the music classes and I was in junior ROTC. Yeah, and so I just became like a part of the people, but I wasn't necessarily like as loud as I am now. Like now I don't care, you know. I say hey to strangers uh even if they don't say hey back. So sad. Um yeah, uh yeah, definitely not back then. I've learned a lot since then, so.
So was that intentional as a teenager? Did you want to try to blend in? What drove that?
Well, um I think because like growing up, I was kind of sheltered. You know, like my parents didn't want me hanging out with a bunch of people. They just kind of wanted me to, go to school, do your after school activities, come home, start all over again. Um, and so like that's just kind of what I grew up with. It's like keep your head down, kind of thing. Keep your head down, fit in, and nobody will bother you. I think honestly it was a little bit out of fear. A lot of it actually was out of fear of just either getting hurt or embarrassed or whatever. And so I kept my head down, just because that's what I saw. I just kind of mimicked what I lived with at the time. Um, and now I don't live by myself, but I'm an adult now and I'm not in my parents' house, so it's a totally completely different story.
What? Are there any like moments that you can recall that stand out when you made that transition and made that realization? Or was it kind of a gradual thing as you kind of came into your own?
Well, like being in the being in the position I am, like I was kind of forced to like, hey, look, you're a singer, you're fronting a band, you're fronting our band. You kind of have to, go do some research on how people do some crowd work. Not a lot of people just stand there and sing all night unless you're like unless somebody comes for you specifically, like Danley as a person, because sometimes that's just not the deal. It's like randomly the band is where the band is at and they're just playing music. um but to like gather more people into, you know being more invested in the band, so like a little nudge, a little pressure, and then eventually I got comfortable with it and learned some things, um and like, yeah, no specific moment, just really performing. um
It's kind of
yeah.
like that gradual growth. Like when you work out, you add 1 pound each day and you don't really realize that you're getting stronger until you accidentally throw a bus. Like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, definitely not a specific moment for that. It just kind of like, oh wow, I do that now. That's cool. After like 4 or 5 years, you realize, oh, you're actually a different performer, a different person in general. That's evolved.
Well, one thing that I'm noticing is that I think you have a superpower that Wes didn't talk about. You seem to be very sensitive and to it and attentive to the feelings and thoughts of other people. So, understanding what a crowd wants from you or needs from you, having this empathic perspective that the person sitting down at the wedding isn't telling you to fuck off because they don't care. They just don't want to put themselves out there, right? Or
Yeah.
even just your parents, right? This idea of like, you have really your parents in some ways sheltered you, but it probably was driven by fear and not wanting something bad to happen to you, right? So
Right. Yeah.
I feel like you are very intuitive to potentially how other people are thinking and what they need in situations.
Oh, thanks, Doc. That's cool.
I mean, do you think that?
Yeah, I do. Well, I guess when you were saying that, like my mind went to immediately like, yeah, but then like sometimes I forget about myself. And then, that's immediately that's where I went to. And so it's just like finding that balance every now and then, but then also being okay with like, all right, well, you forgot about yourself for this moment in time. Let's be a little bit more mindful of how to move forward from that. But yeah, that's all. I do think I'm empathic to a lot of people. I just like it's the connection. I'm sure like, Wes too, like Wes loves connection and I second that sentiment. So, yeah.
I love connection. You realize that I alienated basically every other musical performer that I met for like a year straight.
Why'd you do that?
Do you, so a little bit of backstory. Uh, There's probably about a year straight where I was traveling all over the place, and I would do this thing where I would meet these musicians, and I would send videos with Danlie tagged in them, specifically stating that she was my favorite, and I would make them say it on camera.
You did get a few of them, and I got a laugh out of it, but also it was just all out of love. I was like, I get you, I get it.
See. So here's like probably the biggest, most heavy-hitting question that I've got for the night.
Mm.
Um, if you were to have to go head to head with, let's say, three other lead singers from any type of famous mainstay band in a
Mm-hmm.
battle of the bands, and you wanted to skew it in your favor to where you knew you were going to kick their asses, who would you pick? People you know that you're going to beat, but you would also enjoy hanging out with because you got to spend time with them.
Gosh, that's so difficult.
Yeah, it was really
Um,
specific.
yeah, it was really specific. I'm like, how'd you come up with that? You thought a little bit into this. Crap, man. Um, that is a good question. Insert another sponsor.
break.
Today's episode is brought to you by the One Man, One Mic Foundation, $3 Water, Badger, Operation Gamify, and the Ink and Frame Collective. Check out the episode description for more details.
I tell you what, while you think about it,
Okay.
I'm going to ask you another question. If you had to name your band before you went on a giant world tour and it was going to be like sold out arenas and everything, but it
Mm-hmm.
had to be a band name that you thought everyone would hate, what would it be? We're just going to layer these in.
Oh man, this is like a big onion.
I'm just trying to peel back the layers of you, you know?
The people would hate it. Randomly popped up like the Unheards,
Mm-hmm. I don't
right?
know if I hate it.
Yeah.
See, I mean, gosh, I don't hate it either. I came up with that on the spot, dude. What the heck? That's a good name, actually. Never mind.
Yeah, save
You're-
that for later.
You're
Yeah.
incapable of failing, even when you try.
No.
That's what I'm
Oh, I
learning.
fail so much. Well, I thought too hard immediately. I was like, what is like? It's like tacky. Initially, I was like, oh, that's tacky, but then, boop 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 boop. Think of the Unheards, music, hearing, blah blah blah, personality-wise, people, whatever, unheard. There's so many meanings there, and then it's not bad anymore. So I don't know. I don't know if I have an answer to the question
Yeah,
yet.
I know plenty of
Jeez.
angsty teenagers who would love to listen to a band called the Unheards.
Oh, give that band maybe like 20 years.
So speaking of, you said you have a new album out. Can you tell us about it and maybe some of the things that inspired that album?
The album's actually just not just, but it was a project. I met a friend of mine through a wedding gig, and we've done multiple wedding gigs, and I didn't realize that he is a person that does a lot of specifically. It's such a niche area. It's like specifically songs for advertisement, you know, or commercials or TV or whatever. And me, I'm usually up for game for anything, and so I was like, yeah, let's do it. And this was back in like COVID time, so like 2021. Yeah, let's do it. I'm doing nothing. Um, and song by song, we record like over the course of like 4 years. Um, and for a little bit, I was like, oh man, yeah, like it's cool. I'm just singing a bunch of songs. But then, like, as I saw the album coming together, I'm like, this is like such a vibe. Like, it's so happy, but also like happy in the way that I'm happy, but then also going through struggles the way I go through struggles. And I found myself relating to these songs, and so like I feel like it's definitely a showcase of who I am as a person and what I've gone through. Um Outwardly I'm mostly joy and sunshine, having a good time, but like, you know, when I'm by myself or I'm reflecting, like, I've come very far from where I was to now. And so I think it's such a cool way, especially with music and me singing these songs, it's such a cool way to be like holistically brought into this one thing. So it's a vibe. It's got a lot of summer bops, but also some inspirational things if you're feeling down. Um, yeah. So I think it's me, like in a nutshell.
What do you think your younger self, like if you were to go back and talk to like 15-year-old you, like, hey, one day you're gonna be, touring, you're gonna have an album, you're gonna be on Netflix, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, I probably would have been like, no way. Like, no way. Like, at 15, I'm thinking to myself, at 15, like, I did not want to be home. I didn't want to be home, because my parents were scared of everything. And so, like, I was just like, get me out of here. I just want to go hang out with my friends. I want to go do stuff. Not even the bad stuff. I just want to go hang. And so, I didn't really envision or imagine that I would be doing what I'm doing now, especially. So I don't think my younger self would believe me, but yeah, yeah.
Unrealized talent.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've talked about all these great things that you've done. We've talked about kind of coming out of your shell to accomplish these things. What were some of the, like the bigger obstacles that you faced? Those points where people try to stop you.
Oh man. So when I was early 20s, like 22, I was presented with an opportunity to go audition for this band, and I was able to take the audition, and I auditioned for the band. I nailed it. I killed it. They were ready to offer me the job, but my previous employer was like, "Hey, like you're still in a contract with us. Um and you're to abide by this contract. Like we cannot let you out." And so like I won the gig, like it would have been a big promotion for me, and I was pissed. I was like, "Are you kidding? Why'd you guys let me take the audition? Like, did you not expect me to win it or whatever?" Um, I don't know, like what happened there. So I was like pretty cynical for about a year and a half, and um, more fuel to wanting to leave that band. I was like, man, these guys don't care about me, um, and they don't want to like help me out and finding a way. So I'm just gonna get out of this group, write out my contract. Um, but yeah, I think that was like because not everybody had the information, not everybody in the team was willing to find out more, to help me. I felt like that was such a big rock towards my my future. And eventually, like with anything in time, I got over it, and another opportunity presented itself. Um, and it was an easier pathway to that one. So I was able to, go audition for that band and actually take the gig. So I think just patience and time, and then now looking back at it, like I really was like I remember those moments. I was just like, man, fuck all this, fuck all these guys, blah blah blah.
Storming very badly since then, by the way.
Woo.
That was a rumble.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like one thing didn't work out, but then something else popped up and it did work out. But I had no way of knowing unless I just, kept going, and I did. And now I'm groovy.
And it seemed like you had some hope or confidence that something would come along, right?
Yeah, I did. I really did. And also, gosh, at 22, I was still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Nothing of that caliber has happened to me yet, and it did, and then it did. And so, here we are.
Just kind of kept growing. Yeah. And now you're this unstoppable force.
Oh, thanks, man. I'm sure you say that about everybody, but you know what? You say that about everybody because all your friends are cooler than you.
Ah! Nice plug.
Okay, let me stop.
So what do you think, darling?
Well, it's really interesting. So, in addition to your superpower with empathy that we've already talked about, you also strike me as someone who's just very psychologically minded. So, Wes and I were talking about this concept of optimism the other day, and some people are kind of dispositionally optimistic, but for a lot of us, it's something that we need to learn, and you actually can learn it, right? So, a lot of this comes back to one of the first things that you said when you were talking about how you're influenced by the weather, things like that. Is that the way we frame things is everything to how we perceive them. And so we also have the ability to reframe when those perceptions don't serve us. So I see you being able to catch yourself in the moment all the time about, okay, hey, this is actually maybe not something that is helping me in this moment, or I need to consider myself rather than just focusing on other people. I need to find that balance, right? So you seem very good at identifying how you're thinking and how it makes you feel. And then from an optimism standpoint, it's about how we think about both failures and successes, right? So if you think about failure as being caused by some kind of inherent deficit in who you are as a person, and it's permanent, it's never going to get better, then you lose any opportunity for optimism, right? So that 22-year-old you could have totally given up. Like, okay, I guess my goal of becoming a musician is never going to happen for me, so I might as well just do something else, right? People who learn how to become optimistic view those failures as contextual, right? They are driven by the things that are happening in our environment, things that are temporary, things that ultimately can be changed, or at least are outside of who we are as a person. And it allows you to kind of leave that failure behind, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the kind of the converse to that is, what do you do when you're successful, right? And there we kind of want the opposite, right? So rather than minimizing your successes and attributing them to someone else or some kind of like temporary state, owning those successes, right? So realizing that success is because of you, because of the efforts that you put in, because of who you are and your skill set, and that you have the capacity, you have the ability to accomplish the things that you want. that's a way that you can actually engender optimism, right? So even those of us who maybe are not innately positive, optimistic people, by framing our successes and framing our failures in a way that kind of serves that framework, you can become more optimistic over time.
You're basically just conditioning yourself to be a ray of sunshine by constantly saying
Yeah.
it's all sunny.
And by telling yourself that you are awesome and you're helping create that sunshine.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and also I guess just like understanding that like because it's like any muscle, right? It's an exercising of just the being mindfulness. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Um um and especially about that kind of stuff like, oh, you know, I didn't think of it that way. But and also my girlfriend, she's she is very good at that, like, hey, like, but think about this, like, think about, because there were many times where I was like, oh, you know, I'm just like lucky, it was all out of luck, it was good luck that whatever good happened to me was out of all luck. She's like, no, like, you work to get those things, you know, I mean, it didn't necessarily just fall out of your lap, and it took like a really good amount for me to like realize that, like, yeah, you know, I really did do that. Like, I practiced, I sing my ass off, you know, I like do a lot of research before I do anything. And so, like, yeah, work that I like forget was work because I was so just like tunnel vision into whatever it was. And so it's like she is a constant reminder that not everything is because I got lucky.
It's 'cause you're
Yeah.
fucking awesome.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
cool. She's cool too.
Did she got a shirt, right? I'm not crazy.
Oh yeah, we've already worn it. It's been washed a few times already. You know, it's dope. I digs a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. I really hope that we get to hang out soon. I've got my fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll cross paths like physically like soon. It's so crazy. Like he and I have only met once in person. Um,
And you got me in trouble.
yeah, that's true. You know what? Good trouble though.
Did you guys steal something? Did you steal a boat?
No, it was more on the conscience level of things, which is worse. Oh man. But shoot, I
That's kind
wish
of
we
weird to think
stole
about.
a
We've met
boat.
in person one time, but I feel like we talk
Exactly. Well, that's
frequently.
the thing. It's like it's so. Oh man, what an interesting like friendship and connection. You know, it's like we don't talk every day, but it's when we do, it's like, hey, like really checking in. Um, hey, like how are you? How are things like really? You know, and it brings me to this story of a friendship that I've had. A friendship that I had was thought was a friendship for like 10 years, right? Um to this friend, and I'm still having my feelings about it. But for 10 years, like we've known each other, we've hung out all the time. But like at some point I realized, hey, like I literally have shared my whole heart and soul and told you all of like my, you know, what is it? My bones in my closet or whatever. What's the yeah? Like I've told you
Skeleton.
like my skeletons in my closet, you know, and I have yet to hear anything from you. And like at the time, I guess I was just wanting more, and I have expressed that I wanted to know more, but just still nothing. And this was like 2.5, 3 years ago, and I was just like, I'm done. Like I cared. Look, they were going through some stuff, and I cared so much, but I cared so much that like it was painful, and you can only tell somebody, you know, something so much, you know, and they have to be willing to do the work to fix it or do something about it, and I just felt like I was a constant like shoulder to lean on, but then that's it, you know, and so I just kind of cut off contact with this person, which was what I felt compelled to do at the time. Now I don't know, because I'm in a different situation where I realize like there's just different kinds of friends, you know. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how I come out of this.
Just out of curiosity, did you read your media release for this?
I did.
Okay, so you know that you can't
So
do that to me
I can't do that
legally.
to you.
Yeah,
I signed it.
yeah. Friends
Yeah, I
forever now.
signed it. There's my girlfriend's a witness because she read it too and she laughed. It's like, yep, sounds like him. Funny enough.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, seriously, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for talking. Thank you for sharing your gifts of music, awesomeness, sunshine, joy. Your existence in the world makes the world a brighter and better place, and for that I will always be grateful to you.
Oh, thanks, you guys. I appreciate it. I'm very lucky that even though we don't talk as much, I literally have talked to you for about an hour, and it's probably been one of the most meaningful conversations in a really long time. Thanks for digging deep, you guys. I appreciate it.
Christina, like the next time I call you, I'm gonna ask you about the Battle of the Bands thing.
I'll have an answer because that is a really complicated question because it's like I don't know. There's my preconception of people, but they could absolutely be like a darling. I don't know. Some people look like douches. You know, you know, you know.
People can surprise you, yeah.
Yeah. So, I'll think more hard about that. Maybe you can put it in the comment section whenever I finally figure out.
All-time battle.
If you want to know about the 3 people that I want to battle of the bands with, but also just hang out with because they have good vibes, just find out in the comment section. Wherever it is. Beep boop boop boop.
Somewhere. It's there.
Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah.
All at once.
Every episode of All My Friends Are Cooler Than Me is made possible by the One Man, One Mic Foundation. Purpose, belonging, and connection are often found in a life of service, but so rarely in the silence that comes after. The One Man, One Mic Foundation exists to help veterans and active duty service members find purpose through storytelling, belonging within our communities, and connection to the world through podcasting. Help bring them back to community. Find out more at onemanOneMicFoundation.org.